everyone. So this video is about how to get an A in nursing school. I know it seems like it is completely impossible, but it is not. It just takes a well-rounded dynamic of skills to accomplish. Especially if you are the type of person that maybe is not the best test taker, which is sort of how I feel about myself, because I am the type of person that to question myself and say what if, and I read too much into things, and so that's kind of, that anxiety is kind of my downfall with test taking. So I feel like before class started and all throughout first semester, I was always trying to find the best ways to try and get that A, because essentially I was shooting for an A, and I knew that I would land higher if I shot for an A versus shooting for a B. But throughout my first semester, I did learn a couple tips and tricks along the way, and just some advice that I have for people who might be in nursing school now or starting nursing school about how to get good grades and handle the amount of stress that you're going to be under. So I will say that before I went to nursing school, I was pre-med biology, and let me tell you, nursing school was way more intense than pre-med. I don't care what anybody says. It's like when you're in a pre-med science type program, everything is straightforward. It's, you study the cell cycle, your test is going to be about the cell cycle. So as long as you study, you can get good grades in the sciences. However, it is a lot of work. I'm not going to say that it's not. However, the thing with nursing school is you can study and know all of that information, and when you take the test, they put you in situations. They want to weed out the people who cannot critical think, because essentially you aren't walking into a patient's room so a physician is kind of like the master of illness and disease pathology and how do we stop this disease. It's very science-based. That's why a lot of people might say that physicians don't always have the best bedside manners. That's not all of them, of course not, but I mean, that's kind of a thing that, I've heard, and I know some people say about physicians, but realistically, a physician is trained in the science, the pathology of disease, and how to treat disease. Being a nurse, you're going in there, you're seeing a patient with things going on. You need to critically think in that second what to do for that patient. So it's like a different type of person that they're trying to round you into, and the tests are not straightforward. So if you're trying to keep that 4.0 or to have a 4.0, you are going to feel like your entire first semester, that you're going to die and fail. I literally felt like that the entire time. I was like, I'm going to fail. My life's over. All I need is to bomb one test and I'm done. I'm going to get kicked out of the program. And to be honest with you, I passed with an A. I got a 4.0, and it was very difficult. I had zero free time, but this is how you can do it. If I can do it, then you can do it, okay? So the first thing is probably one of the biggest is working. So if you have to work, financially, you have kids or whatever, you have to work. It's fine, but just realize it's taking away from studying time, and losing even one day a week of studying, rest, rejuvenation time is going to make an impact, most likely, on your grade, because it's one less day that you can study or relax or whatever. So if you have the ability not to work, I highly advise you not to work if you can. At the same time, there are people in my program who work 4 night shifts a week and still somehow come to class. I don't know what they got for a grade. I do know that they will be there next semester. So they did pass. So if your goal is just to become a nurse and maybe not get a 4.0, then definitely work. But if you are working, just realize that it's very time consuming. Number 2 is also time consuming. Realize that you're going to have to tell people in your life that you don't have time for them. I didn't go to Thanksgiving with my family because I had to study. I will get into that after, but and there's a lot of times that my boyfriend would be like, come over to my house, and then I go over and I just sit there and read a nursing book the whole time. So definitely realize that it is very time consuming. Number 3, as far as studying and reading the book, I learned after the first exam that you really don't need to read the book. The book is very dense. You're talking like 100 pages per chapter, or like per exam, that is like scientifically dense information. So I would say use the book as a reference. Use the slides to study, and sometimes like your professors might say, check out this slide or this chart on page 533, and you should definitely check out the chart and maybe read like the little section about it, but don't need to read the book cover to cover. 4, as part of studying, it is important to know all the information on the slide, like verbatim, before you go into the test, because they're not going to ask you, like, what is a sign of dehydration? Like, no. They're going to say, you have a patient that's exhibiting this, this, and this. They're also going to put a distractor in there to try to be like, you know, I don't know. They're going to throw something in, like it could be, has been exhibiting this for 5 days. And maybe that 5 days is going to throw you off to be like, oh, well, maybe it's an infection because it's been longer. Maybe it's something, you know what I mean? It's going to make you kind of like go off on a tangent in your brain. I can't even tell you how many questions I got wrong on exams because of distractors. They like kill me. But, you know, they're going to put you in a situation where you have to realize, well, the patient's been exhibiting this for 4 days. The 4 days doesn't necessarily matter. That's a distractor. And these signs lead to dehydration. So it's like all these steps of thinking and reading through this problem. So my point is, if you don't know the information from the slide, like the back of your hand, then there's no way that you're going to be able to critically think on these problems, because they require the knowledge of different signs and what they mean, and you have to like read that out critically. I don't know if that makes sense, but so yes, definitely know the slides perfectly. How I study. So I think I might have put up another video about this, or I don't know, there's a bunch of YouTube videos about this, but pretty much the first like bunch of exams, what I did is I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and I saw people saying that they go back through and retype out the slides in like a much neater format. So you have all the main points on one side and then all the things about it on the other side of the page. I don't know if you guys have seen those videos. If not, I can link them below. So I did that for the first probably 6 exams. It works because it breaks everything down cleaner. Like you can think in your mind when you're taking the test, like, oh, dehydration, what does that mean? You remember like the columns. However, I realized after that test, like I'm spending a whole like 2 days typing up notes like after class. What I should be doing is just studying the slides. So I stopped doing that, and I just studied straight from the slides, referred to the book. And the other really important thing is practice problems. I can't tell you guys how many friends in my class like come up to me and like, how are you doing so well in these exams? And I'm like, practice problems. You have to be able to understand critical thinking. So in the book there's like 15 practice problems, but I also get a supplemental book, and then I go online and try to do all the practice problems that I can. Just be careful with practice problems, like if you're getting the apps on your phone. If you're in like fundamentals of nursing, we're sticking to like fundamentals of nursing. So like if you're on the 3rd exam of fundamentals of nursing and you're on your phone in like an app, I'm not going to say which one, and you're just in nursing, or even fundamentals of nursing, like within a nursing app, just make sure it's covering what you're talking about, because sometimes different programs and things, like, you know, ATI thinks that you're studying all of these things, and maybe this other program or app thinks that you're going to be studying all of these things. And sometimes they will, but they can confuse you. So just make sure that it goes in parallel. That's why I like the books that I got, because each chapter has a topic. So like one chapter might be like fluid and electrolyte imbalances, and there's 100 problems, practice problems, to do before the exam. And then also like in the book, there's like 15 in the back of each chapter. So I did those. I actually read something online. If I can find the scientific journal again, I will link it, but it was talking about how IQ doesn't necessarily predict grade point average, but actually doing practice problems in time that you've taken studying does. So it's kind of interesting. It's like the application portion is more important than your actual IQ. So do your practice problems, you should do well. So let's see, another thing. Okay, so if you are like me, or just a little neurotic in general, no, I'm just kidding. But no, I'm very much a perfectionist and very much hard on myself and very much like anxiety for the future because I put my expectations of myself way up here, and then if I'm not reaching those, I start to kind of get like down on myself because you sit there and you study so much and you're like, all right, this next exam I'm gonna get an A, and then you don't. It's like, wow, like why am I not doing what I feel that I should be doing? And that can be really discouraging. So my advice is to have some sort of acceptance with yourself, give it your all, do all that you can, and be okay with that. And I had to fight that a little bit throughout the semester, but I finally did get to a point where I'm like, all right, you're going to pass, like stop beating yourself up about it. So that was good. And I ended up passing with an A. Like that's what I wanted was an A. I didn't think it was going to happen, but that last exam I got that 98, and that I think kind of solidified it for me. And so, you can go all semester beating yourself up, but you don't know what's going to happen at the end. You don't know, are they going to scale? Are they going to, you know what I'm saying? You don't know. So realistically, as long as you're above where you need to be, like, you don't need to stress. All feel this stress and all feel this pressure. So this kind of comes into my next thing of you and your class are one. You are there to support each other. There were days, like I'm on my A game. Like I'm that person that shows up to class with 6 pencils, 3 highlighters, 2 pens. Like I'm recording all the lectures. Like I'm on it. And in nursing school, you get to a point where you're completely exhausted and you're going to forget something or whatever. And you need to know that you have people that have your back. Like there were days I forgot my lab coat. There was a series of unfortunate events while I was in nursing school, and I didn't have access to my books, and my classmates were sending me pictures of the books and things like that. But I feel like I set the bar in my class of like supporting each other, because I, from the beginning, was very kind of outspoken about how we all need to be there for each other, and I would record the lectures for people that couldn't come to class, and just, it's really nice going to class and knowing that you have 50 plus people supporting you. So just know that too. Your classmates are not your competition. They are your support system, which for me is something completely different than when I did undergraduate and was pre-med. It was very cutthroat, very like, oh, you didn't do well in that exam. Like, oh, that's too bad. Like, and then you go home and you cry for like 6 hours. So nursing school is a little different. There's no scaling. You're not compared to your peers. This is probably the last thing. So, in nursing school, sometimes you feel, okay, so 99% of the time, you feel like you have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea. You studied all this stuff, and now they want you to do it, and you're like, holy crap, this is like a real person. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, you panic, and you just, like 99% of the time, you just feel like you have no idea what you're doing. And the 1% of the time that you do feel like you know what you're doing, at least for fundamentals, you're probably doing it wrong. So my point here is you're gonna mess up on something. You're gonna mess up on something. It's gonna happen, okay? In nursing school, they do these things because they know you're gonna mess up, but they want you to get comfortable doing it. So the first time that I messed up in clinical, which wasn't like a huge deal. It was like, I'm gonna make a story time about it, but you're gonna mess up. You're gonna mess up. Don't get down on yourself. It's really hard not to, but don't get down on yourself. Just keep moving forward. But it is interesting that by the end of the semester, you feel like an absolute pro at like all the stuff that you've been doing the whole semester. So it just kind of shows like you've built. This is the most important. The most important. Put it in bold. Time management. So at the beginning of the semester, you're gonna get a syllabus, and you know that your due dates are like this date, this date, this date. Do not wait last minute. I swear to God, like, please, baby Jesus, do not wait till last minute, because in your life of this semester, something is going to happen. I had the most crazy thing happen. Like, so my car got totaled in a parking lot, completely totaled, like a month and a half before the semester was over, which totally messed up everything, because I had to go and do like all the stuff you have to do for your car to be totaled. Then I didn't have a car to get around, and I had all these due dates, and then I was so stressed out already that I was like, I can't even sleep, and it literally pushed me back 3 days, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. It was almost a whole week once you count the weekend. But I was so far ahead. I was taking the exams and submitting papers the week before. I was trying to do everything the week before. That even having that happen, I was able to, I did test the last day, or the second, no, I tested the second to last day that test was due, but I had the opportunity to be like, okay, there's too much stuff going on, you're not ready, just take a couple days off. And that's why I didn't see my family for Thanksgiving, because it happened right around Thanksgiving, and I needed that time to study because I was behind. However, then I was like caught back up and I was fine, but that's, if I had waited like to study until, if I had planned to take the test the last day or the day before the last day and that happened, I would have done terrible on that exam, and that definitely would have affected my grade. So it's really important, do things ahead of time. I mean, I'm past, like my papers, I passed them in a week early because it's so crazy nursing school. There's so much stuff due and so much stuff going on that if you forget to do something, or you're just like, this material is really difficult, I'm not ready, you want to have that leeway to push it back a couple days if you need to. So at the beginning of the semester, you're kind of like getting acquainted to everything and everything's slower. Like, get on top of stuff at the beginning, and then further through, you're going to realize it starts to really build up and it gets very overwhelming. It really does. So definitely time management. Mucho importante. But yeah, so that is my video about how to get an A in nursing school. You all can do it. Just, you know, do some yoga, try to stay calm, and just keep moving forward and don't get down on yourself. And just remember, at the end of the day, the only letters that matter are RN. One of my advisors told me that, and I just thought it was absolutely perfect. So I'm going to end on that note. I hope you guys like this video. I'm going to be making more videos, especially now that I have a couple weeks off, not in school, so woohoo! But yeah, so definitely please subscribe below, and if you have any suggestions for videos that you want to see or any questions, you can email them to me or comment. So sounds good. I'll see you guys later. Bye.